But I mean, really, I retired in 1975. And
After the South African show?
After the South African show,
Can you tell me a little bit about that? Because I bet it was really interesting. Just South Africa is probably my favorite country. I mean, it is beautiful.
It is a gorgeous country. And of course, at that time, blacks and whites and everyone was separated. I mean, by separated meaning they had different rights. You know, the whites were the one that ruled the country. The blacks were kind of kept down.
Was Desmond Tutu down there at the time? Do you know if he was speaking?
Yes, it was. Of course, he was. But I mean, the whites really were kind of in control.
They were the kind of the leaders of it.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah, the Dutch and the British. It was always a fight between those two in the parliament and all that. And so then I got to meet and to know the Minister of Immigration, and he was also Minister of Sports and Minister of Labor and blah, blah, blah. So he was a very, very powerful guy in administration. And he, when I met him, he said to me, Arnold, when you come over here to South Africa and you do posing exhibitions and strongman acts, you should also go to the townships.
To the townships?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I said, the townships.
Like the Sowetos?
Yeah. So I said, of course I did not know. And so he then explained it to me. And then he would organize with the Reg Park together for me to go in, because he was not what we call the safest place in town. Not that they wanted to do harm to you, but I mean, for someone like me to come in there and to do a demonstration there,
I mean,
everyone got lit. I mean, they were drunk, they were celebrating that someone would come in and give them the respect and do something special for them. So very appreciative, right? So I would go in there, and I was in the cage.
Into the Sowetos? Is that what it's called? Can you bring that up for me, Nick?
Yeah, the townships, they're all over the place. In every town in South Africa, there is townships like that. There's places where the blacks would live, right? And they're very, very kind of low.
I think they're called the Sowetos.
Yeah,
Are they or not?
That's one of them.
Yeah, Sowetos. Yeah, I think so.
So in any case, so I would go in there and do a demonstration and do my posing and lift weights and all of this kind of stuff.
In these small like townships?
There was like, thousands of them surrounding and then just screaming loud and having the greatest time, and then we would go out.
Oh, they would put you on the grill. I'm surprised. I bet they were so hungry. Sometimes they would be like, "Look at this well-fed guy."
It was fantastic, the reception and everything. So, but the reason I'm mentioning that is because it led to the conversation with that Minister of Sports, and he said to me, he says, we should have an international competition here in South Africa. He says, we should work together on that. And I said, okay, we will. And his name was Dr. Kornhoff. Dr. Kornhoff. And he was an extraordinary man, very, very smart. But it just shows you that there was people like him that already wanted to do more for the blacks and to elevate them.
Yeah, create.
So he then, I set him up with Ben Weider, with Joe Weider's brother, who was the head of the International Federation of Bodybuilding. They got together and they hit it off really well. And so Joe Weider and Ben Weider worked with him to bring the Mr. Olympia contest to South Africa, to Pretoria, the capital of South Africa.
Yeah.
But the conditions were that they were able to have a mixed audience.
Okay, so black and white audience. Had they done that ever?
Never.
Wow.
So there was the first time. There was blacks, but there was not just black and white in South Africa. There was a group that was called blacks. There was a group that was called colored. There was a group that was called Indians. There was a group that was white. I mean, there was like 5 different Asians. So everyone was different. So everyone,
a lot of variety.
It was kind of like, it was not considered we are all equal there, right? And so what Ben negotiated was that we have a mixed audience, that anyone, no matter what their nationality and what their kind of color is, or religious beliefs, or whatever, anyone should be able to come to this competition.
Wow.
And also, not only that, but to be a judge. We will have also half black and half white judges and blah, blah, blah.
So was that scary to go before a black judge? Did you think that they would judge you fairly? I would be...
No, not at all, because they were not. I mean, I was competing in America at that time
you were
already.
Used to it.
And I was used to it. There was Leroy Colbert, who was the first guy with a 21, 22-inch arms, big bodybuilder from the 50s and 60s. And he was a judge in New York several times. And he was a totally honest judge. There was other black judges that's the great thing about bodybuilding. In bodybuilding, there was no prejudice. There were some people in bodybuilding that were prejudiced.
Right.
But in general, like especially under the Weeders, I think because they were Jewish.
Bring him up, Ben Weeder.
I think it had something to do with the fact that they were that kind of open-minded about it.
Oh yeah, a lot of times they're the
There's
leaders.
Joe
in
Weeder, exactly.
They're like the leaders in promoting diversity and diversifying
That's
things,
right. Yes,
for
so there was
sure.
no prejudice.
Have been.
There was no prejudice there at all. And as a matter of fact, there was a guy by the name of Bob Hoffman. He always made sure that when they had the AAU had their Mr. America competition, only whites could win. No black could win there.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so that was really embarrassing.
So there were some barriers within the.
There was guys like Sergio Oliva that would be competing in 1966 or 1965 in the Mr. America, and he would get beaten by white guys.
Oh.
And it was totally unfair. Or Harold Poole got beaten in 1963 by Vern Weaver, which I thought was unfair. So there was this. So what they did then was, because there was now two federations. There was the IFBB, there was the AAU and NABA. So
AEU?
AAU, exactly,
AAU.
American Athletic Union. Yeah. And so they then went from that federation over to the IFBB, and there Sergio Oliva won immediately.
Got it.
He became Mr. America, he became Mr. World and Mr. Universe, then Mr. Olympia, and he actually, in the first Mr. Olympia competition, Sergio Oliva beat me.
Wow.
1969, fairly. I mean, there was no complaints there at all because he was extraordinary, right? And so then in 1970, I came back and I beat him in the Mr. World competition in Columbus, Ohio. And then 2 weeks later in the Mr. Olympia in New York. So we were big rivals. And I was, of course, a big admirer of his and a big idol. And he treated me really well.
That audience in South Africa, did it have the feeling during the show of like, this is like a novel thing? This is was there that energy in the event?
There was so much energy in that auditorium. And it was not a big auditorium. It maybe held, I would say, 1,500 people, I would guess. And the energy was fantastic. The joy of being together was fantastic. And I really think that had a tremendous impact also on the future of South Africa. And it was just wonderful that there were leaders there that believed in that and wanted to organize that. And everyone, the police and everyone was really cooperative. Everyone worked together, so it was a fantastic show, a fantastic competition. And of course I won, so it's always a fantastic competition, when you win as your sixth Mr. Olympia. But what was interesting about it was I got $1,000 cash prize. And I was really upset about that because I felt like, well, wait a minute. In 1965, 10 years ago, Larry Scott, when he won Mr. Olympia, got $1,000. And now, 10 years later, we still get $1,000. So that's what made me actually motivated to go then in front of the IFBB, the International Bodybuilding Congress, and to ask them for permission to organize the next year's Mr. Olympia in Columbus, Ohio. And that's exactly what we did. I got the permission, and then we upped the cash prize to $5,000, then to $10,000, to $20,000. We doubled it every year. And now we're giving over $1 million away for cash prizes for the Arnold Classic.